My wife cheated on me, so I decided to take out her partner's wife on a surprise double date. Jane and I were together for a solid 10 years, and despite our ups and downs, I thought we were generally happy. However, a few months ago, I found out she was cheating with a guy named Chad from her office when she forgot to log out of her Facebook Messenger on the laptop, and I saw a message from Chad. Instead of losing my cool initially, I chose to stay calm and think before reacting. Remembering my brother's experience, I didn't want to regret not handling it carefully. I needed to release my anger in a vengeful way so that when I walked out of the situation, I wouldn't be the only one hurt. Maybe getting revenge would help me heal and teach her a lesson about facing consequences for being foolish. So, I knew I had to do something about it, and I wanted the revenge to be absolutely significant. After a few days of planning, I realized the best course of action would be to involve Chad's wife, Sarah. I messaged Sarah on Facebook, asking if we could talk on the phone, thinking she would want to know about her husband's infidelity and maybe help me end the affair. Surprisingly, Sarah was cool and collected about the whole thing. Instead of freaking out, she wanted revenge too. She came up with a plan for both of our cheating partners to get a taste of their own medicine. Sarah suggested going on a date when we knew Jane and Chad would be sneaking around together, making sure they saw us cheating on them. This would mess with their heads and provide fantastic revenge. I was hesitant at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I loved the idea. We talked often, looking for signs of their rendezvous. We figured out they would be meeting at the swanky bar on Friday night. On Friday, Jane said she was going out with a friend, and Chad told Sarah they were going axe throwing. Sarah and I decided to go on our date and accidentally bump into them at the bar, dressed up and looking amazing. While my wife left, I acted normal. Once she was officially in her car and driving away, I quickly got ready for my night with Sarah. We drove, talking excitedly about the plan, feeling waves of sadness and frustration, but fueled by adrenaline on our path to revenge. At the bar, we spotted Jane and Chad in a cozy corner, laughing and flirting. My heart raced as Sarah and I walked to a table just far enough away to be seen. Hand in hand, we pretended everything was normal, ordered drinks and an appetizer, and peeked over until they noticed us. The moment they saw us was priceless. Their eyes went wide, and they looked like they had seen a ghost. I could practically see the cogs turning in their heads as they tried to process what was happening. Sarah said, "They see us. You should kiss me." For a moment, I couldn't imagine doing that, but then I gave in and gave Sarah a nice, long, passionate kiss, fueled by our mutual anger. I peeked through my hands and saw them in a tizzy, a mix of emotions, furious, exposed, confused. After 15 minutes of laughter and flirting, Jane finally mustered the courage to confront us. Chad stammered about it being a huge coincidence and demanded to know what was going on. I kept my cool, making it seem like no big deal. "Oh, hey Chad," I said, acting like we were old friends. "Surprised seeing you here. Sarah and I just decided to grab a drink for fun. You remember Sarah, right? She's your wife." Chad's face turned red and he started stuttering more. Jane, watching from their table, looked horrified and on the verge of tears. Before Chad could say more, Sarah spoke up. "Come on, Chad. We're not doing anything wrong, just two people having a good time like you and Jane." The look on their faces was priceless. They were caught, and they knew it. Chad, speechless, mumbled an excuse about needing the restroom and quickly disappeared. Jane, however, couldn't take it. She stood up, tears streaming down her face, and stormed out of the bar. Clearly, she never expected to be on the receiving end of her own deceit. What an idiot. With our mission done, Sarah and I high-fived and shared a knowing glance. The satisfaction of turning the tables on our cheating spouses was indescribable. We stayed at the bar longer, finishing our drinks and getting to know each other better. Despite the circumstances, we realized we had a lot in common and enjoyed each other's company. As the night went on, Sarah and I shared stories about our marriages, how we tried to make things work, and how we were let down by our partners. Sharing my pain with someone who understood was therapeutic. When it was time to leave, I took her home, and we both promised to keep in touch. Difficult conversations and decisions awaited us, but at least we had each other for support. Over the next few weeks, both our marriages fell apart. Jane and Chad were remorseful, but it was too late. Sarah and I supported each other through filing for divorce and dealing with the emotional fallout. Our revenge plot did more than teach our cheating spouses a lesson. It brought two people dealing with immense heartache together and gave us the strength to move on. I'm not saying Sarah and I are a couple, it's too early for that. But we've become great friends, and who knows what the future holds. Regardless, helping each other during this time has been invaluable. So there you have it, my story of getting back at my cheating wife and her stupid affair partner, well executed. The second story. My new wife cheated on our honeymoon, so I vanished, taking all our belongings. The first day was fantastic, enjoying the sun, sand, and each other's company, typical honeymoon pleasures. But on the second day at the beach, I noticed something odd when Emma suddenly went back to the room for the bathroom and drinks, being gone for almost an hour. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but when it happened again on day 3, suspicion crept in. So, on the 4th day, when Emma said she needed to return to the room, I decided to follow her. Telling her I'd stay at the beach, I trailed her discreetly. Near the pool, I observed a man waving to her. They got into the elevator. I hurried to the 2nd floor, peeking out the door to see her entering a different room with him. My heart sank. I'm a good-looking guy too, with a nice build and plenty of money. So, what did this guy have that I didn't? Devastated, I knew I had to act quickly. In intense anger, I went back to our room, packed our luggage, and decided to vanish entirely. Snatching both room keys, I left her with nothing but the swimsuit she wore and her ID, left at the front desk. While checking out, I informed them she might ask about her room key. It might sound harsh, but I wanted to make it difficult for her to return home, giving me time to get my things before she caught up. As I reached the parking lot, my hands shook, emotions in turmoil, but I was resolute. I got into our car and started the 5.5-hour drive back home, leaving Emma to face the consequences. A few days later, after moving out of our apartment, Emma's mother called me, criticizing everything I did. Emma was in full panic mode. When she realized I was gone, she frantically tried to get back into our room, only to find she was locked out, with no clothes, money, or a way to contact me. I even took her cell phone, trying in vain to reach me from the hotel lobby phone, and begging the hotel staff to let her in. They finally did, only to find I had taken everything. At this point, she had no choice but to call her parents and explain the situation. After asking her 100 times what could have caused me to be such a fool to her into ghosting her like that, she finally had to admit that she had cheated with a guy at the hotel and that I must have somehow found out. Her parents, of course, were furious, but they wired her money so she could buy some clothes and rent a car to drive back home. I can only imagine the embarrassment she must have felt that she made that call. But at the time, I couldn't care less. As a matter of fact, I still don't care. It took hours for all of this to transpire. I just wish I could have seen the look on her face as she started her suffering. Nima's ordeal didn't end there. The rental car she got turned out to have a faulty gas gauge, showing more fuel than she actually had. So she ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere, stranded on the side of the road, still reeling from the shock of everything that had happened. She had to call for roadside assistance, waiting for an hour for them to arrive and fill her tank. It must have been a humbling experience for her, and I can't help but think that maybe, in some way, she got what she deserved. Imagine being on your honeymoon, sitting on the beach, eating delicious food, escaping every care in the world, and just hours later, you're stranded on the side of the road, hungry and abandoned. Yeah, she deserved that. I got back to our apartment well ahead of her. A friend joined me to assist with packing, and I managed to move out swiftly, setting a personal speed record. I intentionally didn't leave a note. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of a face-to-face confrontation. She didn't deserve it. By the time she returned to the apartment, I had vanished. My phone buzzed with missed calls and texts from her, but I chose not to respond. Her betrayal hurt too much, and I couldn't handle hearing her voice or seeing her name on my screen. Consequently, I changed my phone number, erased her contact info, unfriended her, and blocked her on Messenger. I left no direct path for her to reach me. In the days that followed, her friends and family messaged me on Facebook. Some criticized my actions, while others sympathized and offered support. I didn't reply to any of them. It was an emotional whirlwind, but I firmly believed I had made the right choice. My trust in Emma was shattered, and there was no recovering from that. A few weeks later, I received a lengthy letter from Emma, sent to my parents' house. It was filled with apologies and explanations for her actions, attempting to justify her behavior as a momentary lapse in judgment while expressing that she still loved me. Despite sensing the pain in her words, it didn't alter the fact that she had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I chose not to respond to the letter, and I haven't spoken to her since. So, that's my story. Third story. My wife and I have been together for 16 years, married for 14, and we have 2 children. Unfortunately, she's been having an affair, and I recently found out. Now I'm feeling lost, seeking answers on this site since D-Day last Saturday. I'm trying to make sense of it all, and I apologize for the length of this article. Let me provide some context. I'm a 40-year-old man, she's a 38-year-old woman, and the other person involved, the AP, is a 30-year-old man. We met in our early 20s, dated on and off, eventually got married, and have a 14-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. The problem is, she's always had my heart. Early on, I realized I loved her and wanted to spend my life with her. We discussed everything, laughed until we cried, enjoyed music, attended performances, and simply liked each other's company. Having children brought unparalleled joy into our lives. We created 2 amazing kids who are not only beautiful but also compassionate. Raising them has been the most rewarding aspect of our marriage. If there's one thing I'm proud of, it's that we created 2 selfless children who care about each other and the world. I'm head over heels in love with these 2. Our marriage has had its ups and downs, as is common in long relationships. That's simply marriage. We cruise through good times like Maverick and Goose, owning life. Even during lows before this affair, we found ways to chat, find common ground, bounce back, and cruise again. We fought for each other. That's why her choosing him over battling for us hurt so badly. The person she had an affair with is named Chris, a former co-worker. Despite changing jobs, she kept in touch with him throughout the previous year. When they first met, she casually mentioned him in passing, and I sensed something wasn't right. Or maybe I was just envious. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was a sign if there ever was one. COVID has really messed things up in the past 2 months. I'm not blaming COVID, but it didn't make matters easier. I faced despair during this time, withdrawing into my routine of waking up at 4 a.m., working out, and then working from home. I've been working from home since March. After that, I'd spend evenings on Discord or TeamSpeak, connecting with friends and relatives I hadn't seen in a long time due to COVID. I've always been a social person, and I put more effort into these connections than with her. That's correct. Around this time, she had leg surgery, leaving her unable to walk for an extended period. We didn't talk as much as we should have. I assisted her with care, but left her alone for many days without social engagement. They talked heavily during this time, and I wonder if I subconsciously rejected her since she had already chosen him over me. Here's a timeline. She quit her job where he worked in January for a new one. They maintained contact. February was normal and felt terrific. COVID struck in March, and I was working from home, leaning heavily on each other. We're bracing for what the epidemic may bring. April and May seemed normal as we started a massive garden together, doing well and together. We cooked delicious food, drank cocktails, and enjoyed activities. Around this time, he started asking personal questions about her relationship with me, and she's been telling me bits of truth and a lot of "I don't know" or "I don't remember." So who knows? In June and July, she started meeting him on her lunch breaks, leading to their first kiss. She told him this would ruin our families, and he responded, "I think I am okay with that." This exchange hit me the hardest. In July and August, they met more frequently, in parks, parking lots, at work, and even his house. They engaged in closeness activities, and according to her, they tried once in their bed, but he couldn't perform, a detail she says was a regular occurrence and important for later. They also engaged in activities in their cars and parking lots. During this period, I experienced deep depression. I often shared with her my feelings of being off. I recall sitting in the shower, contemplating if life would be easier for her and the kids if I weren't around. While I never considered self-destruction, I thought things might be simpler if I disappeared. In early September, she had leg surgery, staying home for 2 weeks with her leg up. We exchanged many texts during this time, and my depression worsened, feeling lost and drowning daily. Late September, she returned to work with a cast, meeting him at his house. Depression persisted, but I threw myself into intense workouts, hitting personal records and taking up boxing. From October to mid-October, they met more in parking lots and booked a hotel room, spending an entire day together. After a text from her about a rough day, I responded as a supportive husband. Looking back, I was home with our kids, juggling work and helping with distance learning, a stressful situation. She mentioned closeness details, and my depression started to subside. I felt confident I needed to know what was going on. Late October on D-Day, I suspected something was amiss. Everything seemed off. So early morning before my workout, I snooped and found the affair. The fog of ignorance lifted only for a new one to set in. I sometimes wish I could go back to remain oblivious. That morning, I discovered a long text history with significant gaps and a lengthy Snapchat streak, which we never had. This is where I found saved pictures of him expressing affection, gutting me. I gasped for breath and saw red, so I confronted her. I woke her up at 4 a.m., turned on the light, gave her the phone, and asked for an explanation. She was upset about me looking through her phone and claimed they only kissed once. It's never just one kiss, is it? After reading much about it, I learned they always give you a bit of truth, mostly lies. When I finally got her to admit it, she said they kissed once in a car and met up a few times. When I showed her the Google Map history, she realized I knew more than she admitted and started filling in more details, such as how many times they met and that he couldn't always perform. Analyzing our phone data, I found her average texts per month surged from 500 to 4,500. On the worst day, they texted once every 3 minutes for 16 hours. She claimed their conversation was random, but I struggled to believe her. Initially, she said she did it because she was lonely and felt undervalued. Now, her reasoning shifted to not knowing, being stupid, and getting depended on. I'm okay admitting I was distant, but I struggled to take full blame. She could have talked to me, raised a flag, and I would have fought to make things right. Instead, she chose him, dated him, and they professed love to each other. Update. Automod removed my comment, so I found out everything I needed to know. But that doesn't stop the wondering and the need to dig for details. I feel like a psychopath, not myself, desperate for control, which is unusual for me. I'm not that person. I just want her to tell me everything. After reading many stories, spouses, whether women or men, always want to know the deceit level and details of their cheating partner's actions. I'm not alone in this. These attempts to gaslight and trickle truth me are more infuriating than her actions. The day I shared everything with his wife and confronted him, I laid it all out. Every lie, every claim that my wife was making things up out of obsession and a desire to break them up. This angered me, and I wanted him to take responsibility for his actions. For days, I'd wanted to approach, scare, and hurt him. I found him at his retail job stocking shelves. He's a small, pale, frail-looking man. "Hey, Chris." "Jesus." I could only see his eyes and the bridge of his nose through his mask. The fear in him felt empowering. Looking back, I probably didn't need to do it, but reclaiming something he helped steal from me felt great. "Why didn't you accept my Snapchat, bud? I thought we shared everything." Watching him cower and stumble backward, his whimpering exhale was like gold. Jesus, that felt good. I confronted him, telling him the damage he caused and how messed up it was. He lied about what my wife had told me, presenting evidence of their lies and cheating. "You're a coward," I said. Damn, that felt good. But his admission that I was right shocked me. "You're right. I am a coward." God damn it. How could I feel sorry for this miserable person in that moment? I actually felt sorry for him. If he hadn't said that, I would have done more than just throw words at him. Ugh. In frustration, I grabbed peanut butter off the shelf he stocked and threw it at his feet. Then I walked away. Later, I found out that just before I went in there, his wife showed up at his work. She pulled him outside, made him admit to everything, called him a coward, and slapped him. Justice. She confirmed some of what my wife told me. A couple of times, he legitimately couldn't perform, but it didn't make things better. I realized he offered much less than I do. Despite my frustration and hatred, I feel sorry for this guy. As for her, I don't know. She made significant changes, removed social media, deactivated and deleted accounts, blocked his number, and suggested using a flip phone. She's okay with me checking up on her. For now, I think it's justified, but I hate being the adult checking on the child. She turned me into someone I'm not. She took my wedding ring, put it on a necklace she won't take off. I took the ring off during our D-Day fight and said I no longer wanted it. I was happy to see her do that in quiet, keeping it under her shirt before I noticed. When I did, I wanted to cry. If I had any tears left, I'd cry now. Thinking of it, she says she wants to do therapy with me, and I told her we wouldn't proceed without it. Last weekend, we took a trip away, just us, to talk and try to be together. I'll admit there was one day during that weekend where everything melted away, and I felt like I had my best friend again. When we left and came back into town, a black cloud instantly came back over me. Doubts and thoughts never really left during the weekend away. They just hid for a bit. I'm starting to feel like she's remorseful, but trickled truths and gaslighting have made it hard for me to accept any of that remorse. I have to wonder why, if she's truly remorseful, she continues to hide even the smallest things, as if I'm too weak to handle them. This is mind-blowing. I sense a deep primal urge to reclaim something, if that makes sense. It's not hatred. It's intense, passionate, filled with love and sadness, truly amazing. We've experienced so much that I believe we rival even our early carefree days. However, something that truly disturbs me is that for the longest time, she and I engaged in mild play. She genuinely enjoys it. Apparently, he asked her several times for fussy, but she claims they never did. She never allowed me to because she says I'm too big. However, in all the details that have emerged, she tells me he's smaller than me. Suddenly, she's open to the idea of fussy after years of only using smaller toys and fingers during relations. Now, she's okay with me being involved. Perhaps she gave that closeness thing to him and is trying to make amends by giving it to me. Or maybe she genuinely didn't give it to him and wants to share it with me. How can I know? This thought messes with my head. However, who knows how genuine all of this is? Is it because she got caught? Is it because she's afraid of losing our family? Embarrassed? Our oldest, at least, wouldn't forgive her for a long time. I know she's old enough to understand. Our youngest might be just old enough to understand. Either way, they wouldn't want to hear about what their mother did, why our family broke up. I always come back to this. They could have ended it at any point, yet they didn't. And if not for me catching her, they could be in a parking lot right now, at this very moment. Would they be closeness? So for now, I'm leaving the state for a while to work remotely from a family member's house. I need the space, but I fear it greatly as well. I'll take a long time to process all of this, deciding if I want to move forward, if it's even worth trying. I want to see her fight for me, but sometimes my heart interferes, and I give her too much. Up to this point, I wonder if I'm letting her off easy, compromising too much, and giving her ways to avoid taking responsibility. Even if I was distant as a husband, even if she felt lonely, she started this journey, not me. She chose him, not me. As far as I'm concerned, she left me in the shower, staring at a wall, wondering if it would be easier to be dead.